Hey everybody, welcome back to Married to Multifamily. My name is Jeff Fenner. I'm here with my beautiful wife.
Hello.
Want to introduce yourself?
You usually introduce me. I'm Jackie.
We're switching it up. Episode 3, Jackie Fenner. And we have an awesome guest here today, Mr. Ray Venturino.
How you guys doing?
Good. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm very excited.
Absolutely. Wanted to kind of start off today. There's a lot obviously going on in the country. And one of the big things, and this may impact you too, Ray, as we talk through it, is these impending tariffs. It looks like February 1st, Canada and Mexico are going to have some sort of tariffs come in. And really where that affects us, Jackie, is building supplies, right? What I've seen today, the biggest impact is going to be to lumber, soft lumber out of Canada, and then concrete. How do you see that kind of affecting what we do?
Well, in my company, personally, we have a lot of communities in the pipeline. So if this were to go into effect, the cost of building is going to increase greatly, puts more pressure on everybody to find a way to decrease other costs. Kind of brings me back to when we were in COVID. We saw a lot of issues in getting supplies. We were unable to get a lot of the chips that went into our fire systems, for example. So it delayed us opening our buildings that were under construction. So it could increase costs. It could delay construction, which then in turn, we're not bringing in revenue as quickly as we thought we were going to be.
When you say pipeline, what does that mean, just for the uninitiated?
So it is buildings that we already have contracts with, and we have either broken ground or are in the due diligence process with our investors to start the building.
Gotcha. Yeah, chips are a big deal. I saw today that the price of lumber was going up $9,000 per home if these tariffs go in. So, but going back to chips, I'm sure that gave you heartburn just to hear that again.
I think, yeah. Tariffs, any kind of supply chain issues, anything like that, definitely fire equipment goes up. Sprinkler pipe, alarm technology, anything, horn and strobes, pull stay, anything that is involved, especially the heart, which is the computer of the computer fire alarm panels. You'll see an increase in that, and even I think sometimes even the industry gets scared and puts They just pre-price it. They just raise it because they know it's coming. So that's another issue, and that's probably going to start happening soon.
Brutal. Before we get into more on that, Ray, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us your background.
Yeah. Ray Venturino. I've been in the fire industry for about 15 years. It's definitely a passion of mine. I enjoy it a lot, and I would like to help people get through these issues, problems. Issues. Yes, more of a consultant. Let's consult about what you need, what you don't need, what the code says. What we try to ease the pain, because fire protection is funny. It's one of those things that you have to have. It's not like painting your lobby or putting nice bushes in. Right. You can do with or without it. So sometimes with fire protection, because you have to do it, I try to be more diplomatic and more empathetic to my customers, because I know they have to spend the money and make it happen. Yeah. So. I
mean, you're the biggest thing. So in our industry, when we're building a building, the number one catchphrase and keyword is getting a TCO, which is a temporary certificate of occupancy, which allows us to start leasing the apartments, move people into the building. And there's two things that hold these things up at all times. It's either fire suppression, fire safety, or elevators. Those are usually the two things. Kind of, what's your experience working through that process? Like, do you work with, I know you've worked with us, but kind of tell everybody, working with the building, working with the municipality, just kind of how's your process to work through that?
We definitely try to be involved in all that. One of the big things is working with the electricians to make sure that the fire alarm is up and running. When that fire inspector comes, you want everything working the way it should be so he can sign off on that certificate of occupancy. And that's the most important thing, is that we don't fail any inspections. We move things forward, working with the construction side and the compliance side. we got to make sure it's safe and that it's all up to code. That's really, code is like the bad word or the good word. I don't know what it is, but it's either or, depending on your situation.
And these towns can be really tough because every town has different ideas, right? Jackie, you've built in many municipalities in Jersey, New York. You've worked in other areas. Like, what are some of the challenges with that?
We will have fire officials come in and they'll say, all right, we're going to give you TCO as long as your fire life safety is working in building A. And then, the second phase, we can worry about that later. And then we go for TCO and they're like, oh no, we want it on the entire building before you're allowed to enter and move people in. So it's small things like that put us behind, and then we have to go, and it delays us for a few weeks to make sure everything is up and running.
And Ray, I'm sure on your side, you'd prefer the whole building to be up and running before we move any residents in, right?
We know that that's not, over the last 10, 15 years that I've been looking at buildings, I've gone through a phase where the phase is almost complete, and that's where you want to concentrate on to get that temporary. Basically, you get a row of temporaries, right? You get temporary 1, then temporary 2, then temporary 3, and then because you guys have to fund these things and you want to get revenue in, you got to open up a phase, and we understand that, so we try to make sure that at least that phase is complete and ready to go, and that the fire official is happy. Basically, what we try to do, and what Jackie tries to do, and what I'm sure you do, is just try to make that guy happy. Just make sure he's satisfied, and also make sure you're above board all the time. Always be transparent with those guys, because that's what they want. They're not looking to bust your chops, or looking to make the building safe. So we all come to them with honesty and transparency. They really appreciate that. So it's a good little tip.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. It can be very frustrating dealing with them. I know Jackie just was part of development of a property. We won't say the municipality, but the goalposts kept changing, right? It kept moving as you went. Now I want 400 more Knox boxes and more signs. And how do you deal with that when you're dealing with the fire officials?
Yeah, so that was actually after we had residents moved in and we were fully operational. And then the fire department came in and they said, listen, we just walked your building and it takes us 5 minutes to get from the entrance all the way to the other side of the building. We need more access. And while it is a lot of work on our end to implement more signage and implement more Knox boxes, we know in the end that it would be a liability to us if something were to happen, and it's going to delay their response time. So we work with them to a certain level, of course, and make sure that our residents are safe.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. We have people living here. Obviously, we talk about revenue and getting the building open, and there's a lot of business practicalities that are involved in this. But at the end of the day, we have people living there, right? We want to make sure they're safe. There's been a lot of advances, a lot of stuff now where, defend in place and they're not evacuating the entire building when certain alarms go off that I've seen have helped. Tell me what a Knox box is.
Knox box is what the each town has their own key, which is universal for every single Knox box in the town. And they want you to put all your keys in there, whatever access they need, sprinkler room key, any key that, like your maintenance guy carries around, that he can get into every single part of the building, whether it's a tenant space, whether it's a storage area. They want those keys in that Knox box, usually in the front entrance. Where they can get at it. They have to, drill it into the building.
Yep.
It's there. It's made out of metal. Can't catch on fire, so on and so forth. That's what a Knox box gets them access to your entire building, basically.
So basically, Jackie, you put like master keys in this that go everywhere? I know that's a bad word in our
we're not
industry.
allowed to say that word. But yes, it's for the fire department to have access to the entire building.
And they're the only ones with the key to get into it.
Correct. In case of emergency only.
And generally what you see is obviously if there's a real emergency situation, there's not a lot of time to pause, and doors will get broken open and they're going to get in to try to save people as quickly as possible. But
I have never seen the fire department use a Knox box.
And they don't have to. If they want to break into somewhere, they got an axe right on their back and they can get into any door that they want. And the other thing about that is that emergencies only happen at 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday.
Correct.
So no one's around. Your maintenance guy's not around. You're not around. Tenants are sleeping. The sirens are wailing. Warning strobes are going off like crazy.
They're going
usually
in.
Chaos. Usually bedlam when they're when they're coming there. So anything that they can use to help them, get to the situation and solve it. Turn off the sprinkler so the water doesn't keep running thousands of gallons per minute.
Thousands of gallons per second.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So you want them to have access to anywhere they want. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
Ray, is there anything kind of new or exciting coming out in your industry? Anything that you've seen that's been interesting lately?
What I've noticed is there's just a lot more things that you need. You could tell by your newer buildings have probably 30% more fire equipment in them than something even from 10 years ago.
Wow.
Something from 50 years ago, 40 years ago, you probably have 80% more fire equipment.
Wow.
I can go to a building from 1970. It takes me 10 minutes to walk it and find all the equipment that's there. A brand new building that has CO detectors in the garages. It has a ton of emergency lights now. There's as the code changes, you're going to get more and more things that you need in your building that are, regulated, and there's just a ton of it. Stairwell pressurization, all sorts of things, especially high rise. High rise is a different animal. There's different safety issues for high rises because there's just much more peril for people that live in the higher floors. Yeah. So they take it very seriously, like in Jersey City. We call Jersey City mini Manhattan because of the codes and how stringent they are, but it's for a reason. We have to understand it's for a good reason.
Yeah, Jackie and I both had to go through what was that called? The
Fire life safety meeting. It was like a course at Jersey City, and they had firefighters that fought in 9/11 actually teach it, and it was a great process to go through. I learned so much, just simple things like when you're a resident, knowing if you were to get down on the ground, how many doors you have to feel till you're to the stairwell exit because you can't see at that point. So it was little things like that I learned that could be very beneficial one day.
Do you still remember which fire extinguisher to use?
ABC.
ABC covers most of it. That's your umbrella extinguisher, covers everything. Yeah, the fire command centers are big, you know what I mean, in all the high rises. And this way, when you took that course and got your certification, now you know exactly what everything means in there, and 24-hour monitoring of concierge buildings and things like that. It's a really different world. So
they should do that in every municipality. I don't know why they don't. I mean, it was one of the best learning experiences, but it also had us put together floor captains and evacuation plans and actually run the evacuation drills, which residents absolutely hate. But obviously we're doing it for a really good reason. People panic in those situations, and you want everybody to kind of have a plan and know where they're going. It's particularly very difficult in multifamily, though, right? Because, we're building these buildings, there's a lot of alarm testing. And one of the things we run into the most is residents will ignore. So if, brand new buildings, how many times the alarms go off? Once a week?
Yeah, I had 8 over 3 weeks in one building recently.
Yeah. And particularly difficult in New Jersey. It's been very cold. So even though our parking garages have a dry system, Ray, can you tell us what that is? It's kind of the pressure system.
Dry sprinkler system means that there's a compressor holding air in the system so that you don't have frozen pipes, and that the system is only wet from inside the sprinkler room down, and everything above it is dry, full of compressed air. The problem is you get water in those pipes through either condensation, the low points aren't correct, it's not built correct, the drum drips aren't exercised like they're supposed to, so you will get like a frozen pipe every once in a while, even in a dry system. Makes no sense. There's no water in the dry system, but there's water in every dry system, and it's just a matter of sometimes it does happen, and you will get a full-blown alarm. The pipe breaks, sprinkler head cracks, fittings basically come apart when the ice gets in them. You will get full-blown alarm, people getting up out of bed, or people not getting up out of bed, which is like what you were saying about the false alarms. False alarms are dangerous.
Tough.
Because it's like the boy that cried wolf. Yep. When you have 10 false alarms or 10 alarms, even if they're not false, some of them are real or some of them are frozen pipes, and people just get used to it. Yeah. They just sleep through it, or they just turn it off, or they maneuver the horn and strobe in the
remove their horn strobe.
Remove the horn and strobe, which causes issues, which we're fighting at all times. It is dangerous to have the false alarm, so you want to make sure that you have when it's an alarm, you want people to really know it's an alarm, or else they'll become they'll become, they won't good. They won't.
Yeah,
move.
they're like desensitized to it.
Desensitized to the whole process, which we don't want.
And we try and educate the residents every time an alarm goes off because they say, oh, there's all these false alarms. There's no real emergency. And so we're trying to educate them that it's going off for a reason and it shouldn't be ignored. So we're trying to give now more of an explanation as to why every single alarm is happening. That way that they understand, like, it's telling us something's wrong. That way we can fix it so that if there is, God forbid, a real fire emergency, that the system's going to work correctly when that happens.
How are you handling that communication?
A lot of it is phone calls. Residents are calling very upset. They're coming down to the office very upset. So the community manager, the assistant manager, we try and have them handle the conversations, even bring the maintenance supervisor in to explain it if they don't know how the systems work. Try and leaving, leasing consultants out of the conversation just so that the managers can show empathy to the situation and really give a good explanation.
I think it's a great idea to have the maintenance guy involved too. I think that's perfect, so that he give you some of the technical side of it. And I tell them the same thing. Thank God it worked. You got to spin it. Like, oh, you know what? It worked exactly the way it was supposed to. The dry sprinkler went off, and if that was a real fire, the dry
There's
sprinkler
no suppression, right?
Yeah, like the alarm worked. Everything worked. So it's really, like you said, telling them, educating them, and spinning it is really important. And say, listen, it's supposed to work that way, and it worked. So let's thank God.
Yeah, I mean, even when I lived in apartment buildings, being in the industry, like I would evacuate at every alarm, almost just to like set an example. Because sometimes I knew that there would be testing going on, or I knew I could go look at the panel and understand that maybe some dust got into something, or it wasn't a real emergency. But I think it's important, if you're out there, public service announcement, evacuate every time.
Yes. I can't tell you on the commercial side, you have even a fire drill, unannounced fire drill, or a false alarm. How many people are sitting at their desk working, and the fire inspector comes in and he can literally find all those people.
Yeah.
But they're working. They're like, I'm not leaving my computer, and it's amazing. And the fire inspector does show up, and he does, or the fire chief if there's a false alarm, and they do say, you should have gotten out of the building. Did you hear the alarms blaring? Did you hear all that stuff going off?
Good.
So it is important to get out, and like you said, setting a good example by being the manager and walking out and standing in you guys have designated areas, right? Where you tell everybody to stand if there's a fire.
Yeah. How do you handle like kind of your evacuations?
Depends on the municipality. Like you said, Jersey City is a little bit different where we have defend a place. But other communities, you have the different areas outside. So you make sure they're away from the building. You have a list of all of your residents. One thing that's super important that I have my team do is make a list of pets in the homes and anybody that needs assistance in getting out. There was unfortunately a really bad fire years back in Edgewater. And while all the people got out, a lot of pets were lost. Yeah. So I think it's important to have those lists that you can just hand to the fire department when they get there. That way they are able to get everybody, including pets, out. But yes, just making sure you get away from the building and making sure you're able to somewhat account for who you know is in the building.
That's a great point. The accountability, pets, children, everybody. Like, where's grandpa? Make sure everybody gets out. That's great.
How do you handle anybody that maybe has a disability and can't take the stairs? And obviously, when a fire emergency is happening or even alarms going off, the elevators go down, right? Don't want to trap in an elevator. So how does that get handled? Just like you said, a list you give to the fire department? Yeah,
we ask any residents once they move in to put, if they would like to put themselves down on a list if they require extra assistance. We also send periodic emails reminding everybody to update their lists. And please, please, please make sure everybody that is living inside the home is on the lease. That way we know if you have 2 kids and it's not just the parents that are on the lease. We need to know all the occupants that are inside the home.
That's a great point. Ray, I also know you're involved with a lot of stuff here in New Jersey. You want to talk about some of the kind of NJA, BDA stuff that you do? Oh, yeah. Well, we are involved in a lot of management organizations, whether it's commercial, whether it's apartments, whether it's condos. They're all they all need our service. So we belong.
are always available to do lunch and learns for lots of managers. Education is big, with me. I think if the more people know, the more they understand, the easier it is to make those, make the connection. Hey, this is important. You guys, both of you are great as far as knowing what the fire equipment does and why you need it. But some managers are either they're new or they're, they do need to be educated. So we provide lots of education through, also we educate the fire inspectors too. Yeah. We used to have seminars and get them CEUs. And we also get CEUs for the managers for their associations when we do that kind of education. But we're literally involved. I think I am involved with maybe 20 organizations. Wow. Some of them fire-related, alarm, sprinkler associations, but also, like I said, the end users, the managers, the owners, all around New Jersey, and there's a lot of them, and they all want to. They're all participate. It's all nice to participate in those events, and it does bring a lot of awareness to what we're doing, to like safety, accountability, and liability. Yeah. Let's not forget about that you have insurance companies involved and other things that can really make a difference and cost you money if you're not doing them the right way, or cost you, God forbid, people that don't get out of the building. Right. You know what I mean? Because you didn't do your due diligence. You didn't pre-plan. Another thing, you could always ask your firemen to come and pre-plan at your building. Ask them to come use your building as a training facility. They love that. And it also gives them, they'll know the building in and out, where they have all that pre-planning done, and they like, oh God, we've been in this building training our guys for 3 years. We know exactly where that room is. We know exactly where that smoke detector is. We know where your sprinkler systems are. So get to know your fire chief. Let him be your friend and encourage him to come to your building and help you. And
we did it at our house with our kids. We had the fire department come over and walk them through escape routes and what they wanted to see. And they, our daughters will stay on the 3rd floor. So they were telling them, put a sheet outside your window if there's a fire, and we'll know you're up there. So
like the old tot finders. Remember those tot finders, those little stickers that they used to give out at school? Yeah. You want to know where the kids' bedrooms are and things like that. So.
Yeah. Use your fire department. That's why they're there, building your house. You brought up a good point, which was educating the fire inspectors. A lot of these municipalities that we go in and build, the last time they had something built was in 1940, right? Yeah. It's a lot of garden-style communities, especially as we kind of push out towards the suburbs. How do you work with them on that? Do they usually come to you, or is that something you just do training courses with them?
Like I said, it helps us have that relationship. So that when we need something, whether you need 20 more days to fix a deficiency, they understand that we're serious about the industry. We're not just here to make money. We're here to make sure that they're educated, we're educated. We do reach out to them. We had like a huge seminar with 400 fire inspectors. Wow. Yeah, and that covers most of the state, north, south. Yeah. We want to be part of what they do, and they need to know that. Like, it's not just about making money.
Easier to work with them, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if they know you or they trust you. Yeah. Oh, that company does a lot of goodwill for us, and they also are doing a lot of education. Let's take them seriously. Yeah. You know what I mean? I go to fire inspectors meetings. Every county has fire inspectors meetings every month. So you go to those things, you talk, and there's a lot of roundtable where they discuss, hey, what do I do in this situation? And sometimes you chime in and say, hey, that suppression system needs this, or the sprinkler needs to be tested at this interval, or this is how we handle things. So we're all learning from each other, really what it is. We're all I love roundtable. We go to those things and we just talk. Like those guys just spit out fire stuff, and I just spit out what our side of it is, because their side is enforcing it, our side is fixing it and maintaining it. Right. And their side is to really say, hey, that needs to be done, or that needs to be done. So it's just continuing education for all of us, and I enjoy it a lot.
I also had Ray's company recently come to our development and construction office, and we all sat down together, because what I realized was these jurisdictional changes keep happening, and we're only building to code, but they keep just getting more strict and strict. And on the operations side, it's costing us more to do all these testings. So I had to bring his company in and kind of educate construction development, because I'm doing the underwriting on the expenses, and they see it went from $10,000 a year now to probably $40,000 a year. And they're like, wait, this is going to kill the deal. And I'm like, okay, do you want the real numbers? Like, I don't want to be the one to kill the deal, but this is, what's happening now. So we walked out of that meeting, and the development side was like, we never think of these things.
Yeah.
And it was so educational to understand what you guys go through now. So it was a great meeting.
I give Jackie a lot of credit for bringing that to light. You know what I mean? She really
Yeah.
said, listen, we all need to get together. You guys are killing me when you install something that needs maintenance every 3 months. Like, they don't.
Pressurization tests aren't cheap.
Yes, exactly. Stuff like that. But also there's a certain kind of emergency light that you don't need to have. You can have
Right.
this one, which will be less maintenance, will cost less money to maintain over the next 10 years, 20 years, because, you guys are in it for the long haul. This isn't like flipping and doing stuff. You're
Right.
you're going to maintain these buildings for a while. So I think it was very enlightening for all of us to like say, be careful, be mindful of what you put in,
Yeah.
because her team, your managers, are going to have to manage it for the next 10 years. And some of it is very expensive to maintain. There's detectors that go out of whack. You have to replace them every 2 years. I don't know why. I don't even know why they sell them.
Right.
Like, why do you sell something that's no good in 2 years? You know what I mean?
We don't want to
Imagine-
replace all the detectors in
No.
2 years.
No, you have to. There's garage detection systems, which is obviously very important for
Yeah.
CO. You have to make sure they're calibrated properly, and you make sure they're working. But it's a strange thing that something is only good for 2 years, and you have to literally replace it. And that comes with Jackie and her team. They need to do that. And to give her credit and give you guys credit, you're trying to do the right thing. Right? You're not
Yeah.
just, like you could let those things go and beep
Right.
for 10 years that they're end of life, but you can't. You have to maintain them. So it was very interesting the way we handled that, and how I think we could do that for a lot of companies. Just be mindful, of
Yeah.
what you're putting in, so that when your team, Jackie's team, who has to maintain it, doesn't get beat over the head by high pricing. So it was.
No, that's huge. I mean, one of the biggest challenges we have is people build the building to build the building, right? And then we have to actually like run it and manage it and maintain it. And, sometimes people put waterfalls in and weird lights. And all of a sudden, these bulbs cost $5,000. And, so I think that's really cool to be collaborative. I think probably that meeting needs to happen before every new building that gets built, right?
Yeah, we're actually doing that now. So there's a couple of buildings that we have under development, and we have Ray looking over the plans to see if there's just anything he can catch right off the bat to try and save us on the construction side and the operation side.
Can you think of any other like vendors you'd want to do that with to like kind of expand on it?
I would love to do it with every vendor.
Sure, HVAC, electric, everything. I mean, the electrical guys are putting in E-lights.
Yeah.
And they're just putting them in. And like you said, they walk away. People walk away from these things. Construction walks away. I think not just fire equipment, everything. Even the tiles, or even the, maybe those tiles have to be polished every 6 months, or that
Right.
waterfall that went in there. Why'd you put a waterfall in there? Like,
No water features, please.
yes, exactly. So I think, any a vendor you can do that with, any partner.
Yes.
Good idea. Ray, what do you see over the next few years as being kind of the biggest challenge in your industry?
I think getting people to be compliant.
Yeah.
I think taking it seriously and doing the right thing. And that's my message. You know what I mean? My message is we can do it right and we can do it affordably.
Yeah.
There's a happy medium. I promise you. You know what I mean? I promise you. It can be done. It's just you have to do a little hard work. You have to do a little research. You have to research code.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to give people what they need, not necessarily overkill, or hey,
Yeah.
you might need that. This is a recommendation versus a deficiency. Like, we're going to fix what needs to be fixed, but we're not going to fix what
Right.
doesn't need to be fixed. So I think people just getting serious about it. And like I said, I educate people that there's liability everywhere you turn.
Right.
There's liability for us. There's liability for you. Let's just quell all that. Let's just stomp it.
Do the right
Like, if
thing.
we do the right thing off the bat, you don't have to worry about that. All your, I's dotted and T's crossed, really. That's really what I think is going to be going on, hopefully, in the future, is that we educate people to do it right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a great partner.
Oh, you are a great partner as well. Like I said, we're really communicating and talking about things that need to be done. So it's refreshing.
Maybe you can bring that to your colleagues and other companies and maybe make this a bigger meeting, or kind of an advocacy to get everybody on the same page and doing the same stuff would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.